Tank has gone pretty green, as you can tell, since it was set up. But we have a ton of bladder snails in here. You saw the eggs being laid, you saw them hatch, you've seen a ton of stuff about this tank. But today we're going to do a little maintenance. We're going to try to fix this green water situation. We'll check on all the snails and see how they look, see if they did in fact inherit that body color as we originally thought. But I want to give you a quick reminder that not every one of my aquariums turns green like this. I do run some clear tanks. I am able to do so. Don't judge me too harshly. Green water is actually really cool. And even though I didn't want it in this tank, we can fix it, I believe. So today we're going to look at it and check it out. So firstly, guys, I think that it turned green because I just did not have enough plant matter in here. The spike rush is doing well, but I trimmed a lot of it twice out of the tank, and I think that cut down the spike rush's ability to compete with the green water algae. So today we might have to correct that, and I think we'll do so by starting with a water change. A very simple water change should get us to at least a higher level of visibility, so let's do that now. Alright, so firstly let's set this over here to the side. Let's make a little gap right there, and we're going to transfer water into a little container. Please keep in mind, for water changes on these nano aquariums, I am using some silicone airline tubing, which otherwise sucks, but for this it's really great. And I don't actually create the suction myself. I use a turkey baster, a very nice one. $2. And I do it this way because I don't want to drink any pond water. I don't think it's a good idea. I might make some music about turning green and becoming Swamp Thing and stuff like that. But, yeah, be safe, you guys. My aquariums are highly bioactive, meaning they are unlike most aquariums. I have tons of pathogens and unknown things that live in these waters, so we have to be somewhat mindful. There we go, we got a good suction. We'll start the siphon, just like that. And we'll look at the tank while we wait. Alright, so this won't take too long with this water change, and that's fine. We are removing some microfauna as well, down below. And again, that's okay. I'm not too worried about decreasing the microfauna population because all of this green water shows me that we have a ton of animals in here producing fertilizer. And you'll see many of the worms and things as I begin to drain the water. These are darrow worms, I believe. But we have several different species that inhabit my aquariums. And these guys are not going to be harmful to our snails. They are detritivores, little scavengers just looking for food. And they help us out by removing extra food, extra material. They'll even kind of digest waste and do things like that to break it down to make it more easily consumed by my bacteria, who will then break that down and make it more easily used by my plants. So it's kind of a big cycle. If you see worms in your aquarium, don't freak out. Don't be like those people on YouTube. Oh my god, there's bugs in my tank. Don't be like that. You have to realize that your aquarium is not some sterile hospital container of water. It is a world. It's a habitat. If you put water in a container, you are creating a habitat for something, be it bacteria or more complex life forms. And especially when you start bringing snails and fish and things into the mix, you will create an ecosystem, like it or not. No matter how hard you try to run that sterile aquarium, it's going to be a lot of work and a lot of effort, and you're really just fighting against nature. So I try not to do that here at Bucket Ponds. I try to work with what is provided, as best I can anyway. There's our air line that we're using to siphon water. And yeah, we have quite a bit of life in here. You'll see a few ostracods down here as well. Their population has not exploded, thankfully. We've kept their numbers low, but I've had to throttle the feeding for the tank to make sure that they don't overpopulate the tank and start attacking the bladder snails. And they will do so. They will do this. Yeah. But we've managed to keep them under control, excuse me. And that's a good sign, but it has slowed down the growth of our bladder snail hatchlings as I had to reduce the feeding. I had to slow down feeding for the aquarium in general. Yeah. All things considered, though, the tank looks good. Looks good. I don't mind some green water here, you guys. Green water is not the enemy. I don't hate this stuff. It's a good sign. It's a oxygen-rich, algae-dense environment, and that's fine. Now, one problem with green water is that at night it can cause oxygen levels to deplete a great deal. But my aquariums don't usually get a nighttime, to be honest with you. And that's why we have a few green tanks here at Bucket Ponds. 24-hour lighting does have repercussions, but I like it. I think it's cool. It works. Obviously, it works. So my biosphere is dense and well populated. So I'm doing something right. Now, sometimes when I do these water changes, I think it looks so cool in there, like a really awesome pollinarium, and I could most likely leave the water level lower and run the tank in that way. I think that we might do that. I don't know. Let me think about it. I don't want to jump into anything because it is functioning right now as a bladder snail culture breeding environment, and we will look at the snails more in just a moment. Oh. I would like to use a larger tubing for my water changes, but it's a difficult thing to balance, to do right. So we filled up our first green potion here. And there are some microfauna and things in here, of course. And I'm going to take that elsewhere. Alright, now we'll do our second fill to complete the water change. I am reducing the tank down almost to maybe 5% of its original depth. There we go. Alright, and for the siphon to work, I'll have to hold my jar a little lower. And I want to get that as low as I can in the tank. There we go. I won't get all of the green water. There's always going to be spores and remnants in here, and that's okay. But removing a significant portion of it like this will definitely help. The bladder snail shouldn't be too concerned with the water change, but it is going to kick up some stuff in the tank, which should stimulate the remaining microfauna into feeding, breeding, and recouping losses from this water change. We do have some copepods in here, some various worms. Let's get a close-up if we can. As water levels get lower, you'll see more and more of my microfauna scooting around and being disturbed, unfortunately. But don't worry, guys, I don't dump this out. I don't dump it into the sink or anything. This goes right into one of my other projects. Because some tanks I have are doing well with green water. Flourishing, even. Let's give our, I have the tube plugged for a second. I'm going to let my microfauna kind of get away from the tube here. Then kind of recover a little bit. And we'll start the suction again. And that's about it, you guys. I'm not going to get all of this water out. There we go. Alright. Alright. And I am back with some water. So now, trying to pour the water in here without disturbing everything is going to be nearly impossible. So what I'm going to do is just kind of pour it along the wall here. I don't have any soil down there, but I do have some mulch. Try to make sure you guys can see. There we go. And this is just good fresh water coming from an underground well. About 6.6 pH to start with, but the tank will modify it back towards 7. I don't really pay attention to kpH or any of that stuff. I'm sure it's very important. Really, it's kind of beautiful in a way. I'm going to fix the lid back up. And I think that we're going to run the air stone down deeper in the tank. I think that would be a good idea. So, give me just a moment. Alright, so there's my janky but very functional lid. Here's my air stone system here. We're just going to pop that off. Set it right there for a moment and get our new line on there. I'm using a somewhat different aquarium tubing, which is a little bit smaller than your normal air line. So it's a little finicky when you're first putting a new piece onto something. And give me just a moment. I usually take my tweezers or something and kind of stretch it. Stretch it a little bit. Once I have this on there, it's a very snug fit. And that's one reason I say that silicone airline tubing really sucks, because it does not stay on. This thing will never release, though. Never. Alright, and we do have some bladder snails on the air stone. We'll try to get them reattached as soon as possible. Alright, we are good now. Oh, let's turn our air stone back on and then I'll fix that weird curve. That looks pretty good. Not bad for a homemade air stone, right? Let's get it down in the tank a little bit. That's what I want. I don't want it to be glaring in my face. That looks okay. I can live with that. And we have our lighting restored, and the tank will recover. It's going to be fine. So now we have a chance to look at our bladder snails, and there's a cluster of them right here, slightly disturbed by their whole world draining and then flooding again. But let's turn it to the side, and let's take a look at these snails. Alright, so with the way my lighting is, these snails are looking dark, but let's get an extra light and see if maybe we can get a better idea of that snail's body color. That's gray, you guys. That's gray purple. Gray purple, I guess. Let's check another snail. I would say he's a gray as well. Yeah, he's definitely gray. Yeah. So my snails do look dark until I get a enhanced lighting out here on the outside of the tank so we can really see them. But yeah, they are definitely a gray. They are gray. I don't know how else to describe that color. Not every bladder snail is this color, though it does seem to be pretty common. Again, I wasn't breeding for rarity or anything. I was looking for just to see if it could be inherited. That worm back there is playing havoc with my autofocus. So yes, yeah, it looks like everybody's maintained the same exact color of their parents, even though I have changed the food up quite a bit and the conditions. They originally came from a very dark tank with no lighting at all, and I thought that might have influenced why they showed the gray coloration, but no, it seems somewhat unrelated, or at least it's continuing throughout this population. The spike rush looks amazing in here, and I don't think I've ever given you a better shot of this plant. I know I talk about it a lot, and really I should probably switch towards more commonly used aquarium plants like Anubias and stuff, but I just can't do that, you guys. That's not who I am. That's not my style. I found these in the wild, and I love them, and it makes it more special to me. So now that we disturbed the tank and made a big mess, I think it's time that we go ahead and feed everybody. So I'm going to get a cucumber, and I'll be right back. Well, guys, I didn't have any cucumbers on hand, so we are going to improvise with a piece of orange bell pepper. Yes. I have a bunch of these frozen for the other experiments, so using them here will be perfect. It won't hurt us at all. I cut up orange, red, and yellow. I froze the slices. I haven't used the orange for anything, so I have a bunch of this one laying around. My wife has been watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer lately, which I grew up watching. And now every time I say the word Spike, I think of that character from the show. It's wonderful. So we're going to just impale our bell pepper on here like this, and then we're going to open it up a little bit. They won't really eat the skin, so we will have to remove the skin in time, but that's okay. We're going to sink it right here in the front of the tank, just like that. These snails have never seen a bell pepper. Not in, I don't know, 100 generations. 50, we'll say 50 generations. So I can't tell you what they might have eaten before they came to me. But I can tell you these guys have never seen a bell pepper. They've never encountered the flavor, the scent, or the nutrients that might be in here. It will take them some time to notice this new food, as I did, perform a 100%, 95% water change, so that will disturb their ability to sense their environment for a time. Everything's going to smell different and weird, but you give them a few days, they'll find that piece of pepper and they will consume it. They'll be very happy little guys. As happy as a snail can be, anyway. I do see a couple escapees up here who are no doubt inspired by the water change. And we're just going to give them a nice little nudge with some water just to encourage them to maybe stay in the tank, It's not their fault. They're bladder snails. They're always looking, always thinking, maybe there's somewhere I can go breed where there aren't any other bladder snails. There we go. We should be good. They are explorers at heart. I have to work on my lid. That's somewhat annoying. I missed the little clasps that we had on there originally, but it was killing my hatchlings, so we had to make an adjustment. And my shelf is slightly off level, causing the jar to wobble a little bit. We'll have to fix that as well. Primarily ostracods down here in the mold, and that's fine. That's where I want them to stay. They are doing a great job. You'll notice that we have a very small amount of mulm in this tank, even though it's been running for a while. I've been feeding it pretty heavily, and we have actually injected mulm into the aquarium. I had to add donor mulm to my tank. How many people even say that? But the ostracods are doing their job. They are scavengers, so that's where they like to be, eating whatever's down there. There we go. So it's hard for me to focus on all those little creatures with my macro lens, just due to the nature of a three-dimensional tank full of water. It's not easy to film them in the background with a magnifying lens, essentially. But you can see them up front. The tank is absolutely crawling with life, as it should be. This is what your substrate should look like. That's my belief, my strategy, anyway. And it seems to be working quite well, as I am responsible for hundreds of pounds of biomass, of plants and microfauna and bladder snails, and even some fish and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, you don't have to do things the way that I do them, but I think that there is a better alternative. There is a natural way to control mulm, at least to a limited extent. I don't have to vacuum this tank ever. And I know it's a nano aquarium, I know it's not like a big fish tank, but you can jack up this strategy to larger sizes. So here we are, guys. The tank has settled a great deal, and it looks wonderful. I'm confident that we can continue to run this tank for a long time moving forward. We're trying a new food on them, and we've extended the airline tubing a bit down into the bottom of the tank. I think that is a better setup in general. So yeah, my future plans for this tank is to let it run and enjoy it. We shouldn't have to do much with the aquarium. The bladder snails are maintaining their body color. Really, it's pretty sweet. We can cut some spike brush out of here and use that for other projects. We can, of course, capture some of those microfauna creatures that you saw and inject them into other tanks as well. The bladder snails, they're not quite at the level where we can start pulling individuals out, but they'll be there soon. I'd say about 2 more generations. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe or drop a comment. Really, all of those things help the channel a great deal because they keep me excited and ready to make another video. Yeah.